Thank you, thank you. Well, first of all, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Second, when I know most of you and we have really built a nice friendship and a nice relation, so that it's really nice. And as Pablo was saying, why now? No? And I think that it is always good to have like a final reflection of what we had in our projects, which were like the great advantages, but also which were our failures or which were weaknesses, no? So it is always like that. It is in research, we are always constructing and we always realize at the end, oh, I should have made that, or I should have done this, or I should have prevent that. But it is always a learning process. And as most of you said it, no, we are in a learning process. And that is why it is not only that it is finished and that's it, no, but we are in this learning process. And that is the important thing to realize. So I will share with you my screen. And these are some ideas, but what I would really like it is that we have a discussion, no? That we can construct together what are our results of our research and which are our learnings and which were our weaknesses. And I think that that is the important thing, like to be in this process. So, well, why it is inter or transdisciplinary research? So I organize it in this part, like only an introduction. It has been written a lot of inter, trans, multi-transdisciplinary. So I am only giving some ideas, but of course there is much more written. And also it is very much related to all the philosophies of science that has been produced since 18th century. No? So here only to talk in 2 slides about it, it is like an insult, but only it's to give ideas and that you can be learning much more if you would like. Some epistemological and ontological frameworks about why do we decide for one method or the other one? How are we analyzing our social data, and how are we constructing our narrative? And at the end, it is a construction of conclusions that I don't have conclusions. I would like to construct them with you. And of course, questions, and then afterwards, next session's goals. So why do we now say it is very important to be really building upon an inter or a transdisciplinary research? I think that we have to understand the complexity of our sociological problems in a very, very way. It says in different perspectives with different disciplines, and that we see it one way and the other ones will see it in another way. And in this sense, I think that more and more it is interrelated. All these complex problems are much more interrelated, and sometimes they are difficult to really separate them and to understand them. So I think that we can be helping each other from the different disciplines and to understand parts of it. I think that also we have to be constructing collaborative actions, and always with equity and justice. We have to be deepening this capacity of understanding and trying to evaluate or trying to see that there are other perspectives, that there are other cosmovisions, other values, and other knowledges. Since 20, 30 years ago, there have been anthropologists that they were worried about the extractivism of information. So they are calling it, the colonizing methodologies. And now, it is a decolonizing methodologies in the sense of how can we learn from these failures or errors that many of us made, pretending that we have the knowledge and that when we are working with the people, they are going to be taught and they don't have anything to share. So this is in the sense that we have to break our mentality and to start to think, how can we really construct the problem together and how can we construct the solutions together? And in this sense, we will be only starting to make a transformations to sustainability. So most of you, or all of you have been in contact with these planetary boundaries. And I hope that you have read afterwards the article that Melissa Leach and Rockstrom wrote about not only planetary boundaries in the sense of biophysical, but also in the sense of the social boundaries. And that would be with equity and justice. So we have the 8 areas, where Rostrom was talking about the biodiversity loss, the ocean depletion, the climate change, the freshwater use. But also then what we have to be thinking about it is the social foundation. This is, well, climate change, yes, what is with water and food, and also with health, and what about gender equality and social equity, or the voices are being represented or not, the incomes are the same or no, they are not same, what is happening with the energy, are we talking about, for example, now energetical transition or climate change transitions, but is it really like so though, or what we have to take in consideration about inequities, So in that sense, in the second part, in this, we see that there are the planetary boundaries, there are the social boundaries, and there are many pathways to be constructed in a transformation to sustainability. And there are some that are unsafe because they are breaching planetary boundaries, more the biophysical aspects, but also, there are other ones that even though that technologically, perhaps they are very, very sustainable, but when we see they are splitting more or making furthermore the gap between societies, So then it is an unjust pathway, and it shouldn't be considered as a sustainable pathway to sustain, for the future. So then what we see is that there are multiple pathways towards this sustainability, that there is no unique solution, and that we have to consider it always, that we don't have like the wisdom or the unique solution, that there are many solutions, and that the important thing it is to really understand what type of solution and to contextualize them in the sense of where are we, that the present contexts are always determined by the past decisions. So we have to go into the history of the processes. Are they deciding these societies, or they were imposed some of their ways of life? Or what about the colonizations? What does this mean for the people that are being colonized? What type of injustices have been committed? So there are a lot of contexts of great uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity, and multiple political, economic, social, and cultural contexts that we have really to understand before we start any research. So there is a lot of challenges in the present discourse, and many hegemonic perspectives of thoughts and knowledges. And we have to be aware of these hegemonic perspectives, and how then to construct other discourses that we have to consider when we are making a project of that is aiming to have or to construct sustainability. So there has been a lot of literature also about the transformations to sustainability, and what we talk about transformations to sustainability will be these fundamental changes of social ecological systems, that there has to be, or how to promote these changes in structure, function, and relations, how to construct these new forms of interactions and outcomes, and that there are shifts that are always altering these human and environmental interactions and feedbacks. And for that also, there has been a lot of literature about the leverage points for sustainability transformations, in the sense of all the parameters, the feedbacks, the designs, and how to really reconnect people with nature. And so there has been a lot of references and bibliography and many researchers that are working, in this sense. And this I only in one of the articles, this of O'Brien, she made like this cloud of words, and I put it that they are not so clear. No, they are really very fussy. No, when we are talking about justice, when we are talking about transformation, social even, no, aspects, or intersectionality, equity. So it is really not so clear. When we are talking about these big concepts, of course, there's a lot of discussion of many of the, not only researchers, but also associations, people that are in different civil associations or civil movements or social movements, that they will be taking other concepts. And we can see it now, no, what is happening with all the discourses that are constructed with the Palestine problem, no, and with that no, it's a genocide, it's not a genocide, and now no, the Israeli saying no, we are having a genocide. Not so all these, it is not clear, and that is why it becomes very fuzzy, and who is talking and who has the right to talk. No, so then it is that is why I put this part in a very fuzzy way. It is not clear because we have different concepts for that, and different perspectives and different results. So this is what Meadows have been proposing since 99. For sure, you have read about it, but how to transform then societies for sustainability. And what she says, it is, well, we need always leverage points, and we have shallow points, that there will be like in this part, and the deep leverage points. And this is what it is much more difficult to be changing in our societies. We can be working in parameters, as subsidies or taxes, or the size of the buffer stocks, or the structure even of material stocks and flows, But it becomes more difficult to be changing, the structure of information flows, Who has access to the information and what type of information? And again, when we are talking about the Palestine problem, what we see it is who has this access to information, why the Palestinian journalists were killed. And in that sense, we say, there is a control of information. Who doesn't want that the communication and the information will be flowing, And to change this, then it becomes really, really difficult, The rules of the systems also, we have to change the rules of the systems, but how, when, in which moment, and also, we see it with all what is happening also in the universities of US, even there that they were supposed to have clear rules or more transparent rules of the system. What we see it is they were not clear and they were not accountable. And there are powers embedded in the sense of we have to be really conscious about the structure of power, how this system is being organized, which are the goals of the system. Even in the discourse, we are talking about equity, that is in the discourse, but really are we transforming our society for equity and justice? So in that sense, further we go deeper, as the leverage points, it is more and more difficult to be really transforming these processes, And what Meadows was talking about is, well, we talk about parameters, about feedbacks, or the feed loops that we are always looking at it, that design how our institutions and social structures being designed, and how can we produce a feedback, and how can we really understand all the parameters and transform all these parameters, And then afterwards, we see the underpinning values, the goals, the worldviews of the different actors. And then, we see that in this nested hierarchy, there are a lot of challenges. So when we are talking about these planetary boundaries, very well, Leach was posing this question about how if we politicize the planetary boundaries, in that sense, which pathways, who is choosing and who is shaping and that they are always interlocked with power structures. And whose boundaries are we talking about, and whose safety, in the sense of who is really in charge of saying this is safe or this is not safe? How do we really establish those boundaries, and where and how? Whose goals, no? So we have to be always talking about if really are not representing all goals, or whose goals are being represented when we are talking about this sustainability and resilience. And who is gaining in this process, who is losing? If the planetary boundaries also only are like power grabs, and they are undermining justice and democracy. So these questions, I think they are really very important in every project that we start imagining. So if we are really concerned about sustainability, if we are concerned in the transformation of the society for a better well-being. So there has been a long process, and I tell you, there are long debates in the philosophy of sciences, about the monoism versus pluralism, the objectivism versus constructivism, all what it has been produced about the complex system. So really, this is a lot of debates that have been, I tell you, since 17th, 18th century. And more, in the last 20, 30 years, we have had a lot of literature that really are very interesting to understand why not multidisciplinarity, or yes, why in this project we have to use more interdisciplinarity, or one in another project we have to be trying to construct a transdisciplinary project. So when we are talking about multidisciplinarity, well, we are talking more about like the union of the disciplines, but every discipline keeps their methodologies and theories. So this is like a diagram, that it has been constructing as, well, here's biology and here's the social sciences, and we are only adding process. And I will tell you, in many of your answers that we will be analyzing later, it is in this sense. I added, the social part. I added, this part of the geography, but not really. I integrated, I really came into the integration of the discipline. Really, I am not only making my objects, but subjects of the my project, and then it is a relationship that it is between objects and subjects that we have to really understand. Really, when we are talking with different stakeholders, are they our object of study, or they are the subject also of our study? So how can we share common methodologies and theories? And that was a principle of what they call sustainable development. And in this sense, it was, well, the sustainable development will be coming into the interdisciplinarity of different spheres, the economic sphere, the environmental, the social or cultural, but really has been like that. Or when we are talking about sustainable development, many times we are talking only or focusing only on the environment, or only we are focusing on really economically, it is like that. And many times the social and the cultural is marginalized in this process of sustainable development. And of course, it has been highly criticized in the sense of, well, there is a tautology in the sense of talking about sustainable and development. So there has been a lot of criticism of using this term. But at the beginning, what they really was the goal, it is to come into an interdisciplinarity way of understanding the processes. But since 30 years ago, 40 years ago, with different names, not only with the name of transdisciplinarity, but anthropologists were talking, and that will be our next session, but more about participatory research or action research, or how to really integrate different type of stakeholders into our projects. So But no, now, since 20 years ago, we have the discussion about then what we are trying to make it is to transcend disciplines. It is not only to integrate the disciplines, but also to transcend them, to be really involving these multiple stakeholders driven by real problems, and that we are producing applicable results. So in that sense, when we're talking about an interdisciplinary research, we are not really involving so much the multiple stakeholders, even though we are interviewing different stakeholders. But that doesn't mean that they are taken into consideration in our project itself, no? And that's the big difference. When we are trying to understand only the stakeholders, well, perhaps, and this is perhaps we are in this interdisciplinary phase, but perhaps only it is this in this multidisciplinary phase, no? And it is not like this is a bad research and this is a good research. I don't want that we will be thinking on that. No, they are different approaches to understand our reality. And of course, always, it is important to still have biological research, and we have social research and geographical research. It doesn't mean that it is bad to stay in a disciplinary way. Only it is when we want to really achieve a transformation of long-term, for sustainability, then of course we have to not only be every discipline starting to say what they think about the problem, but try to not only integrate it, but to transcend it. And for that, we need to be really driven or taking in consideration real problems and taking and involving multiple stakeholders that are that are in this construction of this reality. So in that sense, it is not this is bad, this is good, but only it is if we want to achieve a transformation for sustainability, we have to then try to really understand how we can construct a transdisciplinary project and which will be the big challenges of it. So some of the assumptions, it is this integration, that here, well, they are separated, they are integrated, or they are really becoming one, in one project, that the several disciplines are here, and here we're talking about the across disciplines, and they are, well, different stakeholders, and as I told you, the goals are different. This is more like project oriented. Here is learning, about the other disciplines to understand reality. And here it is more to transform, or it is more problem oriented. But for that also, there has been a lot of discussion that it is not so easy to go from one to another. And what many of the philosophers and epistemologists that are working on that, it is we have to deconstruct disciplines. We have to deconstruct really the language of our discipline to understand the other languages of the other disciplines. We have to then construct a totally new knowledge that generates a new structural knowledge. It wouldn't be the same as social sciences only, or as anthropology. So we have another vision, another knowledge that we have to really not only add, not only to integrate, but really to co-create or to really transcend over that knowledge itself. So what they are talking about it is this rupture of epistemological paradigms, that there has to be a rupture of the frontiers between the knowledges, and that we can be in epistemological dissents, because it is not so easy to really say, well, we are constructing a new paradigm and we forget about this or about the other thing. So in this sense, there are a lot of epistemological dissents that we have to work on. But first, we have to be aware of our epistemological frameworks. What are we understanding of construction of knowledge? How do we construct our knowledge? Based on what? Which are our assumptions of how we construct the knowledge? And then afterwards, we will be realizing then that there are very different ways of constructing knowledge. So then how do we hybridize all these knowledges, but also know what the for example, political sciences, but also many of the political ecologies have been underlining it is all social production of knowledge should be politicized. This is, we cannot work on a new production of knowledge without considering the politicization of it, no? So better to say, well, why, no? And this was when we were talking about the different pathways of transformation for sustainability, then who will be gaining, who will be losing, which reality or which discourse counts, no? And for this, we have to always be working in networks to consider, oh, sorry, to be considered the ethics of the otherness, no? And that there are a lot of power strategies that we have to be aware of. So when we come to different ways of working with the different stakeholders, well, we have to consider all these points, no? Where are the power structures? Who is who? Who wants to make one proposal based on what? And we have to be always, no, discussing it in our group if we really want, no, these transformations of sustainability. And there are many, many different ways of how to work with the different stakeholders. So what I would like now to discuss a little bit with you, it is then, where are you in your projects and why are you there? And when we are coming to try to understand that, no, to build this interdisciplinary, I found this diagram as it was so smooth, no? It is only we need to find the correct way of finding the other one, or are we in this process, no? In the sense of there are so many multiple pathways, and where are we? Are we no lost in somewhere in the point, or we are really going where, no? And I think that this is what it is interesting and important to be discussing, where are we going and why are we going there. So for the moment, I would like then to hear from you. What do you think about this, and how do you see yourselves in your projects? So I will be to see each other. I will be not sharing. And I would like to know from you what you think about your own projects. How much did you construct in this sense? Why it was so difficult to be constructing interdisciplinary projects, or did you find it so difficult to construct it, and why? So I don't know who wants to participate first. Perhaps Malala can say something.
So when the first time I put our methodological techniques for our project, I think that I constructed like as a multidisciplinarity project. But when I heard you present the difference with multidisciplinarity, the interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity, I think that for my project, I do the transdisciplinarity methods, because we try to co-construct our methodology with the farmers. So when I heard you to explain when the methods or are constructed with to combine many ideas and many experiences, competence. It is transdisciplinarity research. So, yeah, actually, I think that my project, I can situate it in this place.
In the transdisciplinary, or
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if another person would like to participate.
Elena?
Yeah, Luciano.
Yeah, hello everyone. Just to continue with Malalatin thoughts about this, what interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, or multidisciplinarity. I suppose, Malalatin, that yours is interdisciplinarity because you use the same share common methodology. So, in my understanding of Elena's presentation, I don't think if I am right or wrong, but it's my perception. Thank you.
Thank you, Luciano. Thank you.
Malalatiana, you said that you co-constructed your methodology with the stakeholders, which sounded really interesting. Can you shortly tell what you did?
Yeah, we tried to carry out some experimentation, field experimentation by using vermicompost, but we ask farmers to what kind of fertilizer, what kind of input they want to test, and then they propose a different type of mixture of fertilizer and different type of some techniques. That's why that they want to carry out, and then they are proposed many kind of proposition, but after we select from the proposition, we select which one we want to continue to test, or which one it will not really different each other or something like this.
Okay, thank you. So you sort of co-constructed the experimental setup with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Margaret, I don't know, how did you work and how do you consider your research?
Yeah, I think it's multidisciplinary. What we did was to structure the research. We have an ecological component that looked at various biodiversity ecologically. And then we also have a social component where we try to get the perspective of resource users on biodiversity in its current state and how it was in the past. So the social survey, we basically used focus group discussions and interviews. And we also, I think, to inform, we try to do the social first, which informed whatever we were looking at ecologically. So we brought social science and ecology into what we did. I'm so trying to place it, but I believe it's a multidisciplinary approach. After listening to you and also reading the materials you shared with us, honestly, I wished we had access to this before the research started, especially with the social side. For me, I realized there was a lot I could have learned before going out on the field, but I didn't have a lot of the knowledge. I had to depend on my team members who were generally busy. So it was a bit of a struggle. So when I read the materials, I'm like, oh, I wish I had this before we went out to. Yes, I'll apply this knowledge in future research, of course, but I just wish our research could have used more of what I have learned now. Yes, what we did, yes.
Yeah, many times I think that when we come from more the natural sciences and we are trying to understand, what the social sciences are telling us about, I think that we have to live it, And after we live that process and we realize, oh, I should have known it before, But I think that we always have the opportunity of having access to some readings, But if we really didn't feel it, it was because we were sure that our way or our methodology is the best, Because we are trained for that. We are trained in our disciplines that our methodology is the best, and how do we explain reality is the best,
Absolutely.
So I think that we have to be in a project to say, and to question, is that so? Is that really how I was, taught how to use this methodology is giving me part of the explanation of this reality. And when I am discussing it with one of the farmers or with one, of the decision makers, and they are posing me other questions, and I realize, no, I didn't understand anything about what I made, or oh, I have a part of this explanation of this reality, but I didn't have all, and I didn't realize that there was a problem of this and that. And I think that it is the process of this construction, And I think now the important issue it is to realize that, oh, I need to really make a change in my mindset, And to realize that not only the methodologies that I learn are the unique, but how, I have to combine them, and how I have to combine different perspectives, and to be, moving more into the other side to really understand why are the other ones explaining the problem as they are explaining it, and not the way I am explaining it. So I think it is, well, this is a process of learning, But the important thing it is to realize it, and that you feel it, That you say, oh, yeah.
Because if I am to do our project, if I'm to do it all over again, I would have done it differently. I would have paid more attention to the social part, because we spent a lot of energy and resources into the ecological part, but it didn't give us as much information that the social component brought out. Especially with ecology, with what we did, you only get data for what is happening at that particular time. But with the social aspect, you get to know how the state of the place in the past and how it has changed over time, which the ecological aspect does not give you unless you actually go digging that. But we only did the current state because that was what we could do. Yes. So I would have done this differently if I'm to do it all over again. But it's a learning opportunity, and thank you for taking time to do this with us.
Thank you very much. I don't know if Nam wants to say something.
Yes, Thank you very much. And please allow me turn off the camera to make the signal better. I'm sorry because the signal may not be working well here at my university. Yes, I do agree with Malalatiana and Margaret for confirming the importance of different seminars, and particularly today's workshop on helping us to understand transdisciplinary research. I do agree with Elena, and particularly. Excuse me, can you still hear me?
Yeah, now, yes, yeah. We lose you for a little moment. But,
so yeah, yes. So through today's presentation of Elena, I am very interested in the statement that we need to deconstruct disciplines. When we first encountered the project, which is actually biodiversity conservation, which we need to look at it from different aspects, not only economics, which are our specialty, but from different aspects, including social aspect, political aspect, economic aspects. And so it's really difficult for us because we need to we need to look for and understand different methodologies, different ways to collect data, different way to interpret the data we collected, and also using the backgrounds and also the characteristics of the economy, of people, of the society, community, to understand the issue more broadly and more comprehensively, which is quite different from the way we are doing economics paper. So I think it's very useful for our team as well to learn new things apart from economics things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nam, very much. I don't know if Sion or Laveni want to say something.
Maybe I can say something. So thank you, Elena, for the very nice presentation, and thank you, Jiden, for organizing this workshop. I do also agree with Margaret and with other awardee. Yeah, it would be very nice to have such kind of workshop at the very beginning so that we really see different perspective we really see our project in a different perspective. When it comes to my project, I believe that my project also line in two approach or a multidisciplinary project, because we incorporate both social, biological, and geographical aspects. We have seen how the biodiversity, how the species distribution look like in the area, and also we are also still looking how the landscape connectivity between different landscape within that large landscape, how it looks, the landscape connectivity, and how this landscape connectivity allows the movement of a large carnivore. At the same time, we have also looked into the social perspective, how the local people lives in and around the national, in and around the protected area, actually lives with the wildlife they have, and how they affect their life, and how it costs them, because there is this issue of human wildlife conflict. So we also see how much the biodiversity costs them to live with this wildlife by looking into the livestock depredation. So yeah, it's very challenging. I mean, as everyone said, it's very challenging, especially when we are an ecology expert. So it was very difficult at some point to really to really understand which kind of question we should have to ask for the pastoralist or for the agriculturalist to understand the real and the complex background of the problem, and to come up with the solution. So yeah, like understanding and deconstructing all this discipline might be very important. And if I like if it was like in the very beginning, if this workshop like happened in the very beginning, maybe it may change our our understanding or our sighting. But yeah, as you said, and as everyone said, it's a learning process. It will help us for our next project. But it's really very important to see or to have such kind of workshop. Yeah, so I will say my projects align to the multidisciplinary.
Thank you, Sion. And Laveni, I don't know if you want to give some words.
With my project, I think I tried to have a multidisciplinary approach. In the beginning, I guess I wanted to have quantitative data as well as qualitative data. So initially, I was going to look at all the EIA guidelines and the past EIA reports within government and determine the effectiveness of the EIA guidelines. But it so happened that the situation, I guess I could refer to it as, the power structures in play at that time. I wasn't able to access EIA reports that were housed in government. So I looked at interviewing EIA consultants instead, so there are several stakeholders, and I think I got the most, I guess, I got my data from EIA consultants who use the EIA guidelines and their perceptions of the effectiveness of these guidelines. So I guess my data was more qualitative in that sense. And then, the circumstances are now that the head of the Department of Environment is changed, and now a new person who's there is now coming back to me to follow up with my research, and is more accessible. So I don't know how that plays out, but the approach was the situation sort of forced me to go into a more qualitative analysis of the evaluation and review of the EIA guidelines in Fiji. And then one of my objectives initially too was to do a literature review on best practices, of which I thought that I could get more precise information from the people contextually for Fiji if I interviewed and got information from the people who actually do the EIAs and are involved in that space. So I'm not quite sure whether it sits in interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary. Transdisciplinary, I think I started with a specific problem, which was degradation and due to development, and therefore the weakness in EIA guidelines. I think I started like that. That kind of molded my research. But I was sort of like trying to get a balance of both, qualitative and quantitative data to be able to answer my questions. But I think I ended up with more qualitative approach. Am I right, Dr. Anuka? Yeah.
Thanks, Laveni, and thanks, Elena, for the very good presentation. There was a lot of very important points. Yeah, how I see Laveni's work, it has elements from both the transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary field, but on the other hand, I think the methodology you used was mainly from the social scientific field. Like the work was based on the interviews and these group discussions. On the other hand, the stakeholders were nicely involved, even in the kind of, they had the chance to affect the methodology used and actually the research question too, because if I understood correct, what you told me was that they felt it was more important to have these group discussions and kind of together map the key problems and how they could be solved, rather than that you would provide so-called best practices based on literature review. And I think that was great, and that is something that Elena mentioned as typical for the transdisciplinary cases, and that you really, as you all mentioned yourself too, was that you were trying to solve a real issue. And the question was about the regulatory practices and standards regarding the impact assessment processes in Fiji, and how the experts use the natural scientific knowledge. And one of the key problems was the limited access to this knowledge and information. And then they were together trying to solve how the community could together better work to utilize the biodiversity information in these impact assessment processes. So in that sense, your question was very like transdisciplinary in the sense, but the methodology was, to my mind, mostly from the social scientific field.
Thank you very much, Anka, for this enrichment of Laveni's reply. Only I wanted to come into our agenda, and well, Pablo didn't show the organization of time, but we are a little bit behind. It is very rich, but I will be going a little bit quicker in order, and if we don't finish, well, we will see it in the second session, but only to remind, or well, to tell you about how I organize a little bit the times. But if we don't finish, don't worry, we will see them for the second session. The important thing it is that really we bring into our reflections, and that we are constructing this together. Okay, only it was that. Now for the second point, it was this epistemological, ontological frameworks, and why I consider it's important to really always come into our projects, and these questions have to be always at the beginning of our project. So whose reality counts? When we are working with different type of stakeholders, where, well, what we assume many times it is that there is an homogeneity of their answers, or that everybody sees reality in a more or less similar way. And what we see it is, well, are women, are women, peasant women are looking at different, and if these women are indigenous people, are they seeing it different? Or she is only the indigenous woman, and this is non-indigenous woman, and they see the reality in a different way. Or the young generations are perceiving and explaining the reality in a different way. And or if all farmers are that are in the coffee plantations are looking at the reality in a similar way than a cattle raiser or than a policymaker. So in this sense, our questions are, when we are making an interview or when we are working with different type of stakeholders, what we have to question always is, how do they really see reality? And in that sense, some of the bibliography that I gave you, it was Richard Chambers has a very beautiful book, even though it is an old book, about whose reality counts. But that make us think about, that we are looking at different processes, or we are focusing in different aspects, So I think that you received this. I don't know if you were able to read it before. If not, I give you like 2 minutes to read it. Did you receive that? Or I think that Pablo sent it to you, no?
Yes, he sent it.
Okay. So, well, I hope that you have read it, but if not, only you go quickly through it. I leave you 1 minute more and then, no? I turn off my camera because I see that my battery is going down very quickly. And I don't have my charger here. Well, hope that I can finish. I go to the second part of the Hancom epistemological parables. So I think that perhaps you are feeling like, or I hope that you're feeling like this third youth, in the sense of my mind is filled with questions, and now I don't understand very well the results of my project. I am really filled with questions, and that is part of this research trajectory. That we are at the end of a project is never the end. Perhaps it's the beginning of another project. And what finally Hancom says, it's you have learned most of all. You have learned the importance of finding out what people have to say about their experiences. You are ready now to return to the world, and this time without about silence. In the sense of question, ask, listen, and we have always a new question to really try to understand. So when we are coming to the epistemological ontological frameworks, only I put you here, the positivist paradigm and the constructivist paradigm, but there are many other ones. And as I said, this has been largely discussed. I'm here making really a very short resume of what it has been discussed, But what I want to that you will understand it is why it is important, the ontological questions, And it does is which is the nature of reality, How do we explain reality? And to say or to question us, do we see reality the same as my neighbor, as the old woman, or the indigenous people, or the young generations, So the positivist paradigm will be saying, yes, everybody is explaining and seeing reality the same way because reality is subjective, no? We can really describe it and that's it. But the constructivist paradigm will be saying, no, reality is subjective. It depends on who and where is this person, no, trying to understand that reality. So realities are multiple, no? And that is why we are saying this is the ontological questions. And we have to really understand how the other ones are explaining their own reality to try to understand, to combine them, or to say, oh, I thought that it was like that, no? But this person and this old woman is saying that, and this young person is saying the other way, no? From the epistemological, it is what I was explaining you before. It is how do we construct knowledge, no? And which is the relation between the researcher and what we are studying about, no? Is there a detachment really between the researcher and the research object, no? To really achieve objective knowledge? Or are we as researchers or people that are trying to understand the reality, we are immersed in that interaction, and there is no separation between the researcher and the supposed objects, and we are all then becoming subjects of trying to understand our realities. From the axiological point of view, it's the main question, what I will be saying it is, which is the role played by our values? Do we share the values or we have different values? And for the positivist paradigm will say, well, research is independent of his or her values. No, the values are not being important to be considered in our research. But the constructivist paradigm will be saying, no, of course there is a reflexivity. The research values are immersed in the knowledge production. How are we conceiving knowledge? How are we explaining that reality? Our values are being immersed or embedded, no, in the construction of that knowledge. So then, of course, our methodological procedures will be very different. And how are we constructing our methodological procedures are really also depending on how do we explain this reality, how do we construct this knowledge, and how our values are being considered. So for the positivist paradigm, they will be saying, well, no, there is a deduction-induction way of working, there is a causal analysis, there are generalizations based on predictability, there are statistical data that will show us how reality is, no? The strategies of validation to trust our results, the representativity and the samples. But the constructivist paradigm will be saying, no, we are much more in the induction and the interpretations. And there are multiple processes and factors that interact. So there is a lot of interaction that we have to consider. So we have to be in a position of a big flexibility, no? And what it is more important, it is the deep analysis than to really have a representativity or a sample only, no? We have to trust that there is an authenticity of the information or of the construction of that knowledge that we are making with our partners. So when we see all the methodological analysis for trying to construct our research, there are multiple, no? And I only hear it's a sample, no? But the ones that you were stating were the surveys or deep interviews, or some of you were working with focal groups, no? But we can make a lot of different, no, methodological procedures, no? Are we first making like a stakeholder mapping, perhaps, no? And it will be important to see where and who is who in our project, no, or in our problem. Are we doing community transects or community mapping? Or are we considering methodologies as the river of life and how it is everybody explaining, no, how it is their life involved in that problem? Or are we really more analyzing paintings or songs Or are we making theater with the people that we are working, and through the theater we are going to construct our project, or we are making photo voice or network analysis or our narratives, no, or mental maps or analysis discourse, no? So then it's only here, no, a sample of what we can really be working with qualitative data, no? And what every methodology or every procedure or every tool that we involve in our research, there will be challenges of each one. There will be nuances, no? Can we extrapolate? Can we generalize or no? How are we going to interpret that? No, if we are, for example, working with paintings or with songs or with tales, no? How are we going afterwards to make interpretations about that? Or how are we going to analyze statistical data with our interviews and with focal groups that many of you know were more in this part, no? To be working with some statistical data that you made interviews and you made, or you organize focus groups. So then how are we going to analyze and how are we going to combine these different type of procedures, no? And if you were worrying about representativity or sample definitions, or that was not so much a worry in your research. So the work that you have been sending, and the answers that you sent were in these aspects, Margaret was saying, yeah, I work with focal groups, I did in-depth interviews, but she was saying there were challenges, some communities were not receptive or were suspicious. I was making a sample size that represented the ecosystem livelihoods linked to our study site, and we will discuss what did she mean with ecosystem livelihoods, but well, that will be a question for Margaret. But what it will be important, it is, as she says, I consider social data made me view the study site through the eyes of community members. I consider social data as scientific, help explain our ecological data, And she changed her perception of how, she's dealing now with qualitative social data. Now, Laveni was more worried about the effectiveness, of using a criteria-based approach, for measuring effectiveness. And I will say, what was effectiveness for her, multi-stakeholder impact assessment approach to include stakeholders' perceptions. Are we only including them, by this impact assessment approach, or there will be other ways of trying to understand the stakeholder perceptions? So are we with this methodology of stakeholder impact assessment was the only one? Or what else did I did to to include these different stakeholder perceptions, How did I collect all these experiences? And what she's saying, well, yeah, my representativity is confirmed by the small number of biodiversity experts. But I will say, we were worried so much about representativity in the sense of, well, I included all the biodiversity experts. And with this information, what did I construct? What did I really came into consideration of which was really the problem that I was trying to understand? Or if I should have considered other non-experts or other persons that are living, for example, biodiversity loss or ecological degradation or And well, Malala, she was very extensive, and she brought us a lot of points that I thought that they were really interesting, in the sense of how focus group discussion, stakeholders interview, but here also we say, we realize that she's saying we added, qualitative methods, we added. And it's important, the words, But there were external factors, no, that I don't know why she changed this, but well, she will be explaining us, no? Oh, sorry. So meetings and workshops with local community leaders, groups to introduce our project, the platform for dialogue, to listen to communities' concerns and suggestions. So these are important points, no? Dialogues, to listen, no, to communities' concerns and suggestions, that really we were working with different type of groups, and we gained a deeper understanding, no, of the community dynamics. And also something important was that also they were taking in consideration daily routines. And sometimes we say that's not important because that doesn't have to do anything with my project. But when we are really considering these daily routines, then we say, oh wow, I didn't know that they are throwing away all the garbage into my lagoon. And I didn't know that they are making this in the lagoon. And I didn't know that they are bathing in the lagoon, or no. So these daily routines are important to be considered into our research, no? Yeah, the ideas what constitute a representative sample were challenged, no? But well, she was saying we maintain the rigor, no? What is to maintain the rigor, or what is to maintain accuracy in the data collections, no? The mixed methods approach, different methodologies, rigorous data collections, no, techniques like coding, thematic analysis, triangulation. And I think that those were very important things, no, to really afterwards interpret the data collections, no? And I reproduce here something that Malala brought into her questions or into her answers, no? And I think this was important, no, to be really considering the different stakeholders, no? And how are they interlinked, no? Why it was important to know how farmers, no, are becoming in this relation with us researchers or with researchers, no? And how are they interacting with the policymakers, interacting with other NGOs and with other organizations? And I think that only like to consider a stakeholder analysis was very important, no? Even though afterwards, when we have to realize it is not all farmers have the same homogeneous views, and they have different knowledges about it, no? But even though afterwards we say yes, but afterwards we have to be considering the heterogeneity of each stakeholders, but because also policymakers, they don't have an homogeneous view, of an homogeneous perspective, and also NGOs and public institutions, they are not having an homogeneous perspective, But I think that only to construct this kind of mapping of stakeholders give us a lot of information of knowing where do I place who and why, And well, the group of NAM, what they were saying, it is, well, for our individual project, we did not change, For the joint project, we changed from quantitative data to qualitative data, And I was surprised because I was working with NAM, And I was saying, please, take in consideration of the qualitative data because they are so important. It is very important to see how farmers are organized or are not organized, or why are they saying it is better to use this insecticide and not the other one, or why it is so difficult to be in the organic or with less LCPPs, But at the same time, he writes, or they write it, the group of NAM, it's we connected with the local communities, And then I say, and how this connection with the local communities came that knowledge into his research, Do really they understand the local situation? If the researchers learned the challenges of the communities and they learned about their expectations, if really they get connected to them culturally and socially, or I was like surprised because No, in the first phrase, I see no, in our individual project, we did not change, no? But then afterwards, yes, we connected. And I said, oh, well, I don't know if they connected or they don't, or they didn't connect, no? But I think that for the Vietnamese group, no, it was very important always this representative sample, no? And yeah, they are saying us it was challenging, no? There were many regions, many types of vegetables, many types of pesticides, no? And yeah, it was a problem, no, to consider many regions. And afterwards, no, they reduced it to 2 regions, but still, no, there were a lot of vegetables. Then afterwards, they concentrate in some vegetables. And yeah, I think that we have to be trying to reduce complexity in order to be understanding more the problem. And then afterwards, always to go back and forth in the sense of how to focus in some points, and then afterwards, how to see the big picture, no? So we always have to be going into the trees, and then afterwards to see the forest, and then afterwards again to the, oh no, but this tree is not functioning well, or this tree is being chopped, and then what will be happening? So in that sense, we have to go back and forth between these, no? But well, they are considering the qualitative data help us, no, to explore the fact, to identify problems, to build up the questionnaire, and to analyze quantitative data, no? But then afterwards, what we have to say, okay, then it was like only like adding, no, integrating some of the qualitative data to explain us, but it was not the axis, no? And as how now explained, yes, we are economists and we do not consider all these qualitative data because we have been taught to do so, no? Because we have considered always that the quantitative data only explains the reality. And now when we are facing that also qualitative data are scientific, no? That they can give us a lot of information, then how do I deal with all these qualitative data, no? So I think they are very important questions, no? And I am not like, don't worry that I am not criticizing some points, only like trying to tell you how our disciplines, no, take us to one way or take us to another way, no? And how it is difficult for us and for everybody to be like crooking, no, the way. So to say, as in the figure, no, where this person is with many possibilities of going to or to constructing paths, yeah, we have to be in that position. And if we are researchers that we are trying to understand sustainability and to work in transformation of sustainability, then we have to be, no, being in different paths, no, that we are not in our comfort zone, and we don't have to be applying always, no, the same procedures, but to be exposed, no, to different types of qualitative data, and what are we doing with all that data, no? And only as an example, no, of course, everything is in Spanish, but only it was like bringing ideas from different stakeholders, for example, no, which are the problems that are here, no, and perhaps it was only about environmental processes, but somebody was saying, oh, no, but there is no job here. And I said, oh, how is this no job important for the environmental problem? Well, it's important for, no, these stakeholders, and it was important to write it down, and then afterwards, what we are going to do with that it's another questions, no? But, well, there is no regulation for fires, no, for the control of fires, or we don't have confidence in institutions anymore, or there is a lack of communication, no, between authorities and local persons or local communities, no? So then, no, what we see it is, well, we were only talking about environmental degradation, and we see a lot of other social problems, no? So what do we do with that, no? Well, we try to organize them. We are trying to prioritize them, no? And make a prioritization of the problems, and to see always, no, with the stakeholders working, do you feel that this will be important, not important, no? For example, violence in the area, or in social insecurity. So why it is so important for the environmental degradation, no, to be really considering violence, or that it is our culture, no, how it has been transformed, and we have now a new culture of consumption, no. And sometimes, no, of course, it is chaotic, no, and sometimes this is like turning like, who and why is this relation, and if it is very important or it's very important, but we have to be working it with always, no, with our stakeholders. Then afterwards, no, we can come into a more like model, no, in this sense. And then afterwards, what we are trying to understand it is how people are seeing or looking or considering the future scenarios, no? And how are we going to then organize the results from a workshop, for example, no? So these are like the big points of the present scenarios, no? That there is an overconsumption, there is a privatization or a commodification of everything, there's an economic crisis, the loss of food security, the loss of biodiversity. There is not only biodiversity crisis, but it is a cultural and value crisis, no? There's a lot of migration, the rural people is more aging, and there is a feminization of the rural populations because of migration, no, of men, and there's a lot of inequality and poverty, no? So then when we are talking about future, how are they looking these future scenarios? So how do they want to transform their present scenario? And then to say, really, do you want new alternatives of development? Do you really want to have food security? How do you want to construct this food security based on staple crops, based on agropastoral forestry systems or not? How are we going to protect our water systems, or to be, no, in the sense of the path of recovering of traditional values and knowledge, or how, no, can we really foster work or labor, no, in our region to reduce migration and to reduce inequality and poverty, no? So in this sense, I went again, no, to your answers and to try, no, to see how did you construct your narrative and the interpretation of your data, no? And well, some of you, no, were saying, we understand that we may not identify the problem and may not interpret the quantitative data accurately, no? So we refer to qualitative data, we incorporate the stories we heard, but then we really don't know how, no? So now you have to make the exercise to say, how did you incorporate the stories that you heard in, no, in your field survey into your quantitative analysis, no? Or Margaret, that she was saying, well, I made interpretation of the qualitative social data by using narrative analysis, and said, well, you have to explain a little bit more about how and what type of narrative analysis did you do, no? And Laveni was saying, well, mainly it was all qualitative data, no? And the transcriptions were then analyzed and coded for key themes or conclusions. And well, she thinks I don't think so, because I don't have done similar type of research, no, in the sense of capacity to interpret data, no. But I think that every, no, research has to question your capacity to interpret data, no. And that if you have your data, say you can have to say, I am interpreting it well, or what is it, no? And when you come to this type of chaos, no, then it is interesting to say, oh, which is the relation between, no, clean rivers and uses and traditions, no? So is this a related thing, or how do they relate it, or they didn't relate it, or they related more for the government and with security and not with clean rivers, no? So this is always challenging to say how I am looking for these interrelations, and who is or who are the people that are working or considering these interrelations, no? And Malala, what she was saying, it is, well, to interpret the qualitative social and cultural data, I did know the data collections and organize it, I was coding it and categorizing it, no? I was then afterwards making a thematic analysis, no? And I think that she gave a lot of points that they were interesting, no? In the sense of how she was organizing all the information, no? And to be, no, no, in this coding process that is identifying recurring topics, key ideas, and underlying trends. And I think that is the key, no, in the sense of when we are in this process of coding, of rereading our interviews or all the information that came into our focal groups, we have to be always trying to say, why they are saying so much this topic, or why they are recurring so much to this topic, and which are the key ideas then, no? Or which are the underlying trends? And I think that she pictured very well, no, in this sense, how are we going to make the interpretation of our data, no? I think that these points, I am not going to put them, because if not, we are not going to finish. Only know that some of you were saying, well, I am only dealing with this problem, so why do I have to be interested in more problems, no? But even though if we are, for example, trying to understand why there is a loss of agrobiodiversity, no, this is one of my projects in Mexico, why no agrobiodiversity has been lost in Mexico, and why no also the foraging in the forest has been really decreasing a lot. Well, then we have to be trying to understand the agrarian heterogeneity, no, the history of the not only the agrarian but the environmental history, how this development model been really transforming this agrarian history. How are the agriculture and food policies, in my case, no, have been transforming this history and this development model? Why there have been all this cultural transformation, and no, then why this cultural transformation are provoking this agrobiodiversity loss? And which are the social institutions that are involved, no? That the access to food, the access to territory, the access to seeds, the access to land, no? And the appropriation and loss of territories and foods, no? The conflicts, the alliances, and no, once again, the power structure that it is so important when we are dealing with any problem that has to do with our environment or our territory, no? Yeah, I'm not going very much in that details, but then know how there are different patches, no, of spaces or of capital spaces, which are the rules of the capital accumulation that have been driving, no, the farmers to do this and not to do the other thing, no? And even, no, we have to be understanding all the vulnerabilities, no, this recursive crisis. And then, no, are we dealing with the land rights, no? And when I was working with NAM and the group, no, the Vietnamese group, I was saying, well, what we have to understand why they have little land or a lot of land, or no, they are always having or they are small landowners, that they are having only less than 1 hectare. Okay, but then how are their land rights recognized or not? No, well, they are all private. Okay, they cannot lose it. How it's privatization of their lands? They are selling their land, they are not selling their land. It is only to have this framing, this context, no? And also, no, how the markets are functioning into the decisions of the farmers, for example, no? These markets, uncertainty or risks, how are the conflicts and power structures, no, among these actors? The gender imbalances, no, and the growing control of international agro-food corporations, no? Why all these agro corporations are more interested in selling pesticides than, of course, the health of the farmers, no? So that is an important issue to be discussed in our results, no? And to understand all this accumulation of vulnerabilities, of social inequalities, are we interested to do reducing these vulnerabilities through organization or through institutional arrangements? And how are dealing all these spaces of unequal distribution of risk and vulnerability? So there are some of these questions that will be giving the context of our environmental problem or of our social environmental problem. And why do we have these beautiful agrosystems of coffee productions, and how and why Nestlé, for example, is pushing to have this type of coffee production, no? So we have to consider that, which is the role of the big corporations or agro-food corporations, that they are transforming with much more agrobiodiversity and biodiversity, because there are a lot of biodiversity in these agrosystems, no? And to transform it into these only monocultures of coffee, well, it has a lot of ecological consequences, but also social, no, cultural, and of course, political consequences, no? So this has to be considered, no, into our problems, no? So, well, once again, now I would like to stop a little bit and to ask you, no, what do you think about this? We are now only having 15 minutes left. So, and I have only 15% of my battery. But then I would like to hear some of your questions, or who starts? I am not turning my camera up to to save battery. If not, I can then afterward continue with my. Pablo, could you send me the link to the WhatsApp? So in any case, I can, if my battery. We don't hear you, Pablo.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, yes, so no problem. I will be sending it right now. In the meantime,
Thank
if
you.
there are any reactions from the group, same as in the previous one, happy to hear.
Thank you, Elena, for this. Before I think that the quantitative data is very important than qualitative data, because maybe it's just a simple way for us to show our result and to interpret. But when you try to expose us, and when I read some paper that you want that we read, then I can have some ideas actually on how I can explore our qualitative data more than quantitative data. Just I think that actually I can have many ideas on how I can redact my paper about the social parts of my project. That's all I think.
Thank you, Malala. Other thoughts? I think that Sion is not connected, no? I think perhaps she lost connection. I don't know if somebody wants to participate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I have can I have 2 questions? The first easy question: can we have the slides after the workshop? Your slides. The second question: it is interesting to see the difference between object. The slide you mentioned about the positivists and object Objectivist.
Constructivist.
I forgot.
Constructivist.
Yeah. Constructivist. Yeah. So yeah, I do agree that we need to be part of the community to understand the research or the reality, and we need to be part of it. But if we are too much into it, I mean, are we going to lose some objective assessment? Because if we are outside, if we are completely outside, I mean, of the community, we may, our assessment may not be affected by our own interpretation or understanding of the community. So by comparing, yeah. So yeah, my question is: are we always going for the constructivist kind of thing? Yes. Thank you.
Well, that depends on which is the goal of our research, no? In the sense, if we only want to describe in the way we always have described reality, then I would say no. Then you stick with your positivist paradigm, you know, in the sense of how are you describing that reality? The question will be, do I want to transform that reality? Do I want to see that I see many problems of that reality? I see a lot of health consequences because of using so much pesticides, or because of the pollution of the rivers, of the pollution of the soils, and then I want to transform that, no? And I want to like try to make these LCPPs, no? And how do I have to convince the farmers to be reducing, no? Or even avoiding the use of pesticides, no? And so then when that is your question and you want your project is much more problem-oriented, no? Then of course you have to be understanding which are the other realities and which are the realities of the different farmers. And if these realities are being explained in a different way, if they are big farmers or they are small farmers, if they are women or if they are men, if they are very old persons or they are young persons, no? So then you have to consider all these variables in the sense to say, well, how they are explaining the use of the pesticides and why are they, perhaps they don't want it, but they are obliged to because of the market forces, for example, no? If they don't produce with so much pesticides, then the cost will be much more, labor, for example, labor costs will be much more important. And then, yeah, the prices of the crops are not going to be balancing all their inputs, no? Or what are the problems that the farmers are explaining not to go into the reduction of the pesticides, no? For example, so when your question it is like that, then you have to be like trying to construct a transdisciplinary project, no? And then to try to build the project considering the different perspectives of the farmers, no? Because if not, you can be really very convincing in the sense that we have to reduce the pesticides. And I think that we all, everybody here will be agreeing with you, no? Of course, we have to reduce pesticides or even to ban them and to avoid them completely, no? Because of the health problems to the farmers, to the health problems to the consumers, because of the problems to the environment, to the reduction of biodiversity, pollution of the soils. We know all that, no? So we are saying, yeah, we are convinced, no? Now, how are the farmers going to be convinced of that, no? Or how are they going to convince you that they cannot reduce the pesticides? And then you will say, oh, yes, then I have to, you know, be transforming more the market. And then I have to be transforming more the policies. And then I have to be transforming more cultural things. Or how do I have to transform the cultural traditions of the consumers, no? And when we see, for example, in the Meadows proposal, there are many other proposals. I only put the one of Meadows because it's the one that it's very much discussed. But are we really considering very shallow transformations, or we are really considering deep transformations, And this has to do a lot with access of information, how information gets into our minds and into our education, how information about pesticide is being, really transformed by different or by stakeholders or by the corporations, agro-food corporations, So then in this sense, it is very difficult then to move, from one to the other. And you can see now the glyphosate, that it has been so much discussed. And even the Europeans now, they say, no, we are not ban it, 10 years more. Oh, how come? And well, we don't think that the agronomists are stupid, and that they are saying, yes, the use of glyphosate, or the farmers are stupid and they are saying, yes, the use of glyphosate. It is all the interests that are involved in the continuity of glyphosate, even though there are a lot of studies that they are saying they are cancerogenic, or they are in many of the studies, they are really related with cancer formations, So in that sense, it depends on what you want and how you want to explain in your project, But I think that if you want to really transform realities, then you have to be moving of paradigm, and you have to really try to understand that there are other realities and how people are explaining their other realities. And for that, then you change of paradigm to the constructivist paradigm and to say, oh, no, now I have to really change my mindset and to really try to understand why farmers are doing what they are doing, and why they are doing it like that and not in the way that I am suppose that I have all this information and they are not doing it, or even though they know that it is very dangerous, they don't change. Why? I don't know if it is more clear now.
Yes, I think it's clear for me. Yeah, thank you very much for the explanation.
Mhm. I don't know if there is another question or comment. Because I would like to construct our conclusions a little bit. How are we going to which conclusions do we write? I didn't want to, oh sorry, I didn't want to write but then I have to do it in that way, so I can write. So you have to give me one conclusion. Fafa, Margaret, you give me one conclusion.
So I think from my perspective,
Yeah.
then it's good to, I think, for whatever research or topic you are looking at, it's good to look at it from different perspectives, or from different angles. That way you get a deeper understanding of the reality, because my reality would be different from another person's reality. And also, I have also come to appreciate qualitative research, because initially, especially when we did we were doing our field work, for instance, and we did our focus group, at the end, I was asking my team members who are social scientists, like, is that all? What do we do with this? It wasn't something, I didn't get it at the beginning because I just did not understand why you would just go and ask these questions and what do you do with what they say? Yes, but now I realize qualitative research actually makes you understand. You don't, is because the people are able to express themselves, you get to understand things better than using an approach which does not allow them to be expressive.
Okay,
that's what I'll say. Yeah.
Okay. Laveni, tell me one of your conclusions.
Okay, I think for me, it's important to continually ask why, to have a deeper understanding of information that we're collecting, and not assume that I've understood certain perceptions, but to continually ask why they think the way they think, or why they perceive things the way they perceive things. To get a better understanding of, I guess, the realities yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nam, could you tell me one of your conclusions?
Okay, perhaps deep understanding of the contexts is important for for any study, I think. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if another person of Vietnam, of the Vietnamese group, can tell me one of.
Yeah, we have two more members. Maybe Dr. Tường Anh or Dr. Khánh Chi, do you have any? Maybe they have no further.
No, for the moment.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Laveni.
Yes, I was talking about asking the question why, why, to continually ask why in relation to their context, in relation to institutional structures, in relation to why they perceive the problems they perceive, the way they perceive it, to get a better understanding. Yeah. So for me, like for the EIA guidelines, it'll basically what are the problems explained by the EIA consultants of the EIA guidelines, and why they see it, as challenges or problems, and for me, how do I transform those problems. In my case, the EIA guidelines to better suit EIA consultants.
Mm-hmm. 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 Thank you, Laveni. I didn't hear everything because I lost a little bit of your voice, but perhaps afterwards you can send me your conclusion, your written, part of your written conclusions, so I can then afterwards add them better. And Malalati, what it's one of or two of your conclusions?
My first conclusion is the importance of the transdisciplinarity methods to carry out research. It will be richful. And my second is about qualitative data. Qualitative data could help us to delve and understand the perceptions of our farmers about our proposal techniques, about our project. And help us also to see the reality.
The what? I didn't understand.
Reality.
The reality. Okay. Okay, for the moment, I think it is very good, very enriching. And I will ask you if you can then afterwards send me the conclusions and then I can add them, so then it is more complete, If you think afterwards, oh, this, that, other conclusions, if you could send them to me and then, or to Pablo, and then Pablo will send them to me.